Okay, thank you. Okay, how many know the song Jaya Radha Madhava? Pretty familiar? Okay. I'm going to go through it anyway, so that at least you'll know the meaning. I don't know if you'll remember it when you're singing. Jaya Radha Madhava, all glories to Radha and Krishna. Madhava is the name for Krishna, means the husband of the goddess of fortune. Kunja Bihari. Kunjas are the groves and gardens of Vrindavan, and Bihari means he enjoys in those groves and gardens. So many pastimes. Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha. And he's the most beloved of the gopis. Gopis love him like anything, and vice versa. Giri Varadhari. This is very familiar. Girivari is the best of hills. Girivara, not Girivana. Girivara. And Hari means he holds up. That should be familiar. This is Giridhari right here. Yashoda Nandana, the beloved son of Yashoda Mai. Braja Jana Ranjana. He delights all the residents of Vrindavan with his pastimes and his loving exchanges. Yamuna, not Yamuna. Yamuna means on the Yamuna Tira, on the shore of the Yamuna. Vanachari, he performs all kinds of pastimes in the forest on the shore of Yamuna. So now, I don't know if you can remember what all that means, but let's sing it. You ready? Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So tonight, the topic is, as you may have heard, the urgency of taking up Krishna consciousness. And just let me get my paraphernalia settled up there. All right. Okay. So on this 29th day of June 2025 in San Diego, we're speaking at the Sunday feast. And the topic is the urgency of taking up Krishna consciousness. So, there's one verse, there's several verses actually, there's quite a few actually in the Shastra, describing how important it is for us to understand how the importance of trying to get out of the round of birth and death, birth, old age, disease, and death. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks about that. He says, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. This is one of the elements of knowledge, to always be seeing, be conscious of the pains, the suffering that comes from birth, old age, disease, and death. So this is one of the impetuses for one of the main impetuses for taking up Krishna consciousness. And before we speak on that, I'll offer my obeisances. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So this is a recurring theme in the Bhagavad Gita and all of our literatures. What is it that will impel us or inspire us to investigate or at least look into the process of yoga, transcendence, and all of these different things? And in the modern age, especially here in America, this is in the background. People are mostly just, the vast majority, just trying to make enough money to pay the rent and do all the things they have to do, and finding their recreation where they can find it, often on the screen. Every time I take every morning I take a walk up the Cass Avenue to Wilbur Street. It's about 6.65 miles, but it's up a hill, so it's a good walk. And how many people do you meet at 6:30 in the morning? Not so many. There's a few dog walkers and a few homeless. And I try to just say good morning, you know. But oftentimes they may be walking, you know, doing something, and they're fixing the screen, you know, and they're not even there, you know, so there's not much point in saying good morning. So this is one of the symptoms of the age, is that more and more ways to be distracted, and more ways to be confused, really, about what's important, what's not important, what's attractive. This AI, I read today that the people who did, what was the first one, the Chat GPT or something like that? Yeah. And now they find that it causes mental illness. So watch out. If you keep relying on it to write your papers and doing all these things, and yeah, this is a serious problem. So this is the nature of the material world, is that it's full of distractions, and it's what we call the Maya Devi. This is one of the energies of Krishna, the energy of illusion. And what does Maya Devi convince us that? We're the body, you know. Now, Prabhupada always emphasized, and I think we can easily understand, that these cats and dogs and insects and all these things, they are also alive. They show consciousness, right? If you do this to the bird will fly away. You know, I mean, that means consciousness. So we learn from the Shastra, from the scripture, that we are not the body. This is the first lesson of Bhagavad Gita. We're not the body, we're the spirit soul inside. And what are the qualities? Beautiful verse, 2nd chapter, 20th verse. Najayate mriyate vakadachan nayam budva bhavitava nabuya. Ajo nitya shachato yam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. So for the soul, there is never birth or death at any time. That's the first line. Najayate mriyate va. Nayam budva. Souls aren't coming into being now. They didn't come into the past. In the future, they won't come into being. They're eternal. We've all existed since time immemorial, just like Krishna. We all exist now, and we will exist in the future. That's the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So, and the body is not, the soul is not slain when the body is slain. Now, of course, they're on a battlefield, so he uses that idea of slain because he wants to convince Arjuna that he's foolish to just quit the battle because you don't want to see your grandfather figure, Bhishma Dev, and his beloved teacher, Dronacharya, and so many others he has relationship with, die. And he doesn't want to be part of that thing of them dying. But Krishna says, nobody's going to die. You know, almost everybody's going to change their body, but no soul will die. So he's convincing Arjuna by his argument, and in the process, he's giving us this eternal book of knowledge, the Gita Upanishad. So what is it that makes us reluctant to investigate things? The whole point is we have to pay attention. We should be inquisitive about these eternal questions. Who am I? Where did I come from? What is this world? You see? What's the ultimate goal of life? You see? Otherwise, we'll come to those conclusions by the influence of Maya. I'm this body. I belong to this clan, this race, this gender, all of these different things. And my business is try to enjoy. You know, I've got these senses. I know what I want. I can hang out with my buddies, and we'll go down to the beach, and we'll go down to the bar. And it just goes on like that. As you get older, your field will change. Well, I don't want to do that anymore, but I have these other fields that I really want to do. So that's the substitute for our eternal Dharma. And this is such a wonderful part of the philosophy, is that each of us is an eternal soul who has wandered from, we're kind of exiles from the spiritual world. And what is the nature of that spiritual world? I'll just change one or two verses. One verse is from the Brahma Samhita. Some of you may know this verse. It describes what's going on in the spiritual world. Shriya kanta padamaparusha kalpatadavo druma bhumish chinda manigana mahi toy amamatam kata ganam natyam gamanam apivangshi priyasaki chidanandam jyoti padamapitadasvajamapicha. There's another verse, but I'll just go. So he said, there in the spiritual world, in Krishna's original abode, they are goddesses of fortune. Shriya Kanta, they're beloveds of Krishna, and he's their beloved. Kanta Padamapurusha, the supreme person. He's the beloved of all of them. Kalpatadavo Dhruma, all the trees are desire trees. Now, you know, is it mango season? Because I'm able to buy mangoes easily in Vons these days. But if I find a mango tree, I can't say, I need some apples too. Can you please give me some apples? Doesn't work, right? But you can do that in the spiritual world. The trees are fully conscious. Everything is fully conscious. You need apples? We got apples. You need mangoes? We got mangoes. But all from the Krishna. That's the So that's Kalpatadavo Dhruma. Bhumi's Chintamani Ganamahi. That all the walkways there are Chintamani gems. You know, these spiritual gems. It's not just pavement. Chintamani manamahi atoyam amratam. All the water is nectar, all the walking is dancing, all the talking is singing, and one can only hear his Krishna flute in the distance, his dear flute, Priyasaki, and Chidanandam Jyoti Padamapitadasvajamapicha. Everything is glowing with this spiritual bliss effulgence, which you can directly taste. You can, in other words, there's no downside there. It's not like, boy, I'm kind of depressed today, what do I do? No, every moment is a different variety of pastimes of loving exchange with Krishna. This is our natural thing. Krishna, according to the Vedanta Sutra, everyone knows what the Vedanta Sutra is. It's not an accident that Prabhupada's name has the word Vedanta in it. Vedanta means the end or culmination of knowledge, you see? And the sutra means aphorisms, little aphorisms, so it's very concentrated. And this is understood to be the essence of the Vedic wisdom, concentrated in these sutras, Vedanta Sutra. And all the sampradayas, the disciplic succession, have a commentary written on the Vedanta Sutra. But Shankaracharya, he was an expansion of Shiva, and he was assigned, he was asked to convince people to go into the impersonalist side. So he wrote a commentary, but he came up with the idea the absolute final source of everything is an impersonal Brahman, you see? And that's still around, you know that. But that's refuted in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, written by the same author, Vyasadeva. So, Srila Prabhupada's name is Bhakti Vedanta, indicating that the ultimate goal of all knowledge is bhakti, is loving devotional service to Krishna. That's what Bhakti Vedanta means, you see. So and Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the same words practically. Have you ever thought of that? What is the first aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra? Vijamani, you know it. The first aphorism. No, that's the second one. No, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Anyway, it's close. Atato, now therefore, Atato, how do you begin a book with the word therefore? Well, it means that it's the culmination of all the other books of knowledge, all the Upanishads and everything. Now therefore, having come to the human form of life, you should inquire into Brahman. Now Brahman, the general definition is the great, you see? But here it means the source of everything. We should want to probably be in his first canto. It's wonderful. He packed everything in there. In an early purport, he says, the inquisitive soul looks up into the sky and sees all those stars and begins to ask, where do these stars come from? Where do I fit? Where did I come from? They inspire this, who am I? So that's Atato Brahma Jigyasa, that Jigyasa. If you think about life, life is a series of asking questions, isn't it? It says, what time is it? Do I have to get up for work? Oh, okay. What's going to be the my job today? What's my assignment? And then if I got a little money invested, how's my stock doing? So it's one question after another. And Prabhupada said, even you find the animals doing that. The birds, I don't know if we have any robins around here anymore, but I grew up, they peck and they're looking for the worm. Where's the worm? That's my meal. Where is that worm? So your life is a series of questions and answers. The problem is, in the material illusion, we're asking the wrong questions. The child goes up, well, okay, you get born, what are you going to, where's the breast? Okay. Now life is good, right? But in general, you have to, where am I going to get my food today? And all of these different questions. So if within all those questions, we don't have the ultimate question, which is, who am I? Where did everything come from? What is my goal in life? What is my real identity? All these ultimate questions, which the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and all the other books Srila Prabhupada translated, they answer those questions. And the answer is really simple. We are, first, what are we not? The first thing, we're not the body, you see? And that means that if you identify with any aspect of the body, you're in illusion, because that's not you. You see? Is it the color? Is it where I was born? The language I speak? How much money I got in the bank? This is what you identify with, right? Oh, I'm lucky I got a nice bank balance. I don't have to worry about that poor guy over there. I'm not. But we're all the same souls. We're all the spiritual souls, eternal. We're all related to Krishna. We're all intimate associates, which we've forgotten. And our happiness really lies in reawakening that. It's very simple. Here, Vedanta Sutra is another important sutra, describing the nature of the Absolute, which is a person. An Anandamayo Bhyasat. How many have heard that before? You've heard of it. You don't remember it? Okay. He heard it, but he just forgot it. Anandamayo Bhyasat means that Krishna, the Absolute Truth, is a person filled with Ananda. Anandamaya. Abhyasat. How do we know? By his activities, by what we know of his pastimes. When is it that Krishna's, depressed? If he is, he's acting depressed, in separation from Radharani, so when he comes, he'll be that more, he never did. So, now we're part and parcel of Krishna. What does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita? Mamai vangsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. All these living entities are anksha. Anksha is easy to understand. Think of a drop of water right near the ocean, or a ray of sunlight. The sunlight ray has a little bit of light and a little bit of heat, right? But compared to the sun, it's infinitesimal, but it's still there. So it's a small particle or part and parcel that has the same quality as what it's a part and parcel of. The drop of water from the Pacific Ocean, you analyze it, it'll be salty and have some elements in it. So now, Krishna is Anandamaya Bhyasat. We are originally Anandamaya Bhyasat. But we've disconnected ourselves voluntarily from Krishna, so we've lost that nature. And we try to regain it out of ignorance by sense gratification. Oh, now I'm enjoying, But it comes to an end, and it's so frustrating. And actually, this is my favorite verse. Those who heard me give class, I give Bhagavad Gita class 3 times a week at 7:15. You can catch it on YouTube if you're interested. And we're in the middle of chapter 5, just beginning chapter 5. So in chapter 5, text 22, you'll find this verse. Krishna is telling Arjuna straight. He's telling it as it is. Yahi sangsparjita boga dukayonaya evate. Adyantapantan koteya nateshu ramate buddha. Which means that the wise person doesn't take part and participate in those pleasures that arise due to the contact of the senses with the sense objects. O son of Kunti, such pleasures are the source of all misery and have a beginning and an end, and so the wise do not take part in them. Now, it shouldn't take too hard to convince you that Krishna is speaking the truth there, but I mean, we have experience. We may want, aspire for any kind of sense pleasure. Take your pick, with so many different kinds. You have these different senses. But even if we experience, say we're going to the movies. We heard a movie came out, and we heard it. We really want to go to see this one. So you go, okay, you pay fare, whatever it is now, probably $10. It was $1.50 when I was growing up. And there's the movie. Oh, this is great, you know. But at a certain point, it's over, right? And then you got the memories, you know, and you go back and you tell your brother about it. But it has a beginning and an end. And what happened there is that so many thoughts and images have been implanted into your subtle body, your mind, and they're in there. And so they may come out later. When you leave your body, this is a verse I can read from the Bhagavad Gita. I kept the Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, where Krishna says, Yang yang vapi smarang bhavam chachachante kalevanam tangtame vaiti kontaya sadarpa bhava bhavita. Which is essential knowledge. He's saying, whatever is the dominant thought in your mind when you leave the body, that's going to determine your next body. Now think about it. All the stuff that we perceived, you know, that we engage in. The video games? Do you really want to remember one of those video games? Get caught in a video game for eternity? The point is that it'll bring you back again to another material body, to suffer. Birth is a painful situation. All of us have forgotten, right? That's part of Krishna's mercy. He's the super soul. He's the source of forgetfulness, knowledge, and remembrance. If we didn't forget the last time we died, you know, and how we were born, we'd all have I've heard many have heard of a massive case of PTSD. We would not be able to function in this life. So we forget that. But it has a downside because we're not impelled to inquire, how can I avoid that again? We forgot it. But it's not very difficult to understand that certainly old age, disease, and death are painful. Nobody wants them. So in ignorance, we're thinking, well, I got to go through it, but then I'm going to go to heaven forever. No, you're not. Even if you do go to heaven, it's not forever. Krishna says, you may get to Indraloka and you'll enjoy like anything for 1,000,000 years, but then chine punye matya lokam vishanti. Punya, it's like you accumulate punya. If you're a good person and you practice, you know, according to the Karma Kanda section, there's certain mantras and sacrifices, okay, you're qualified to go to Indraloka. So you go up there, and I made it, okay, you know, and it's so much enjoyment for a long time. But then Krishna says, chine punye matya lokam vishanti. Chine means expired. You save up your money for like maybe 10 years, and you say, okay, now we can go to that vacation in Hawaii. And so we go with the kids, you know, or maybe Disneyland, whatever it is. And you spend the money, and you got your credit card, and you go into the rides and the rest, you know, and then you give the credit card. Sorry, Mr. Jones, it spit out your card. Do you have another one? I said, no. Oh, I'm sorry. You have to go back where you came from. So similarly, when our punya is used up, we get expelled from the heavenly planet in the loka. Martya lokam vishanti. Krishna doesn't mince words. You come back to this world of death. Well, so what did you do? You didn't make any progress in getting out of this material world. You were allured by the description of how wonderful it is in Indraloka. Similarly, on this planet, we're allured by advertisements or anything, or our senses. Oh, if I can just get that, I'll really be enjoying. But it's all Maya's trick. She's much more professional and skilled con woman than any con man, you see. She's convincing. Everyone in this illusion is convinced that if I can just, you know, get this situation and get this sense gratification, I'll really be happy. And if your karma is suitable, you will experience it, you know. But you can't increase the pleasure. Krishna, that's at the beginning of the Bhagavatam. Narada Muni is inspiring Vyasadeva to write the Bhagavatam, his final work, and he says, "Tasyaiva heto prayateta kovido, nalabhyate yad brahmatama parayata, talabhyate dukkha vadanyukak sukham, kalena sarvata gabhira rangasa." Very important verse. He says, he has an argument before, so he says, therefore, one should strive for what you cannot achieve by going up to the highest planet or down to the lowest planet in this material world. In other words, go to Krishna Loka. Prayateta means struggle really hard if you're intelligent, kovido. Nalabhyate dukkha vadanyukak sukham. Tasyaiva prayateta kovido, nalabhyate yad brahmatama parayata. Wandering up to Brahma Loka or down to Patala Loka. You have what you haven't experienced and cannot experience. What is that? Krishna Bhakti, Prema Bhakti. You haven't experienced it. So then he says something very interesting. From whatever we did in our last life, it's already programmed in how much pleasure we're going to have and how much pain we're going to have in this world. It doesn't make any, it doesn't make any sense logically to struggle very hard to increase your material situation so you can enjoy. It's already programmed in. It'll come anyway. Just as the misery come automatically. Do we have to look for it? No, it comes. The fires will come in LA, or hey, we're living right here. When I first arrived here in '89, I knew about the San Andreas Fault, So I did some research to find out, am I sitting on top of that fault right now? And I found out, no, here in San Diego, it's a little bit to the east, right? We're not right on the fault. Oh, okay. Because I already gone through 6 years of waiting for hurricanes. I'm sitting in Miami, And when hurricane season comes, everyone's checking, the weather report. Is it coming? Luckily, that didn't come while I was there. So that's the nature of this material world. There's always some catastrophe that can threaten you, So anyway, so he's saying we have a certain amount of happiness, a certain amount of distress. There's no point in struggling, in trying to increase the material happiness and decrease the distress. Rather, we should put our effort into getting that position where no more distress. Just every day is a wonderful festival of loving exchanges with Krishna in the spiritual world. That's actually the goal. And there are great souls who have achieved that state even on this planet. We find Srila Prabhupada. And what is it evinced by? Being so tolerant and patient through all the difficulties of coming to America. It's really worthwhile reading. I think is that there was a abridged version of the Lilamrita. Lilamrita is big. It's like 3 huge volumes, which is wonderful literature. But there's also an abridged version that gives the story in bite size, and it describes he was inspired all his life by his spiritual master and his instructions. And but he had a family, he had a business, so that was kind of weighing him down at first, although he was doing as much as he could, And finally he took sannyas in his late 50s, and he went to Vrindavan, But he didn't have, but he was part of the Gaudiya Math, but the Gaudiya Math had kind of scattered, and kind of, after Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati left. He tried to establish a GBC, as Prabhupada did, but it wasn't possible. So Prabhupada didn't have institutional support. He was more or less on his own, but he was still trying. He was publishing Back to Godhead magazine himself, and distributing. Imagine going on the street and distributing. It was like a little newsprint, 5 or 6 or 8 pages. But he's struggling. And then, he was gored by a bull or a cow, serious. It was on the street, and he almost got a heat stroke in Delhi from distributing out there. So he went through that just in India. And then one associate of his said, these magazines, people will read them, but they'll throw them away. If you print a book, a hardback book, that'll be permanent. You should do that. Prabhupada took that seriously and worked like anything for 4 or 5 years in order to get the first 3 books of the Bhagavatam, the first canto, printed. And once he had those printed, he's now in 1965, and he himself was 68 years old at that time. And he said, well, now I got to try to go to America. I'm not going to go to England. My godbrother went to England. They failed. So I'm going to go to if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail in a new place. He said, he's kind of joking. I'm going to go to New York. So how's he going to go to New York? No question of buying a flight. He had 12 rupees. So he had I don't think a disciple, but it was a close friend, and it was a lady who was in charge of a shipping company, and he begged her, let me have free passage to America, to New York. So, no, Swami, you're too old. You'll die there. I'm not going to give it to you. So he had kind of a sit-in. There's a picture of Prabhupada sitting in front of her office, chanting, and just not going anywhere, And so she said, okay, I'll give you a free passage. So she gives him a free passage. He gets on the boat. He loads his books on there, precious books, And it was actually, I think, mid-August, and he was just about to turn 69 on the boat. And so and it was Janmashtami, because, right. So the captain was a Vaishnava, you know, he was celebrating Janmashtami, Prabhupada gave a lecture, and he sold his first set of books to him, you know, now he had $20, you know. And, but there was also difficulty, you know, there was rough going and nausea, you know, from the ship. He'd never been on a ship before. Had 2 heart attacks, and he said, if I haven't, he was keeping a journal, he said, if I have another one, I'm a goner, you know, whatever. So he had a dream. Krishna comes to him in his dream. And he says, don't worry, I'm taking charge of the boat, you know. Everything's going to be all right. It'll be smooth. And it was smooth sailing all across the Atlantic during hurricane season, August, September, which is very unusual. The captain's wife, who was with him, said, can you please come back with us? Because that was the best crossing. So then he comes to America. He stops in Boston, you know, and he takes a walk, you know, in Boston. He's looking around. And then he gets on the ship and he writes that Markane Bhagavad Dharma. It's a wonderful poem. It's in the songbook. And he says, oh, Krishna, why did you bring me to this horrible place, you know? I don't know how are they going to understand my message. Only if you give me the power to speak properly. So, oh, Lord, make me dance, make me dance, make me dance as you like. You know, it's like very poetic, wonderful. So and then, you know, he went to Butler, Pennsylvania, which has become very famous for another reason. I'm not going to mention it if you don't know already. But it was some little obscure town in western Pennsylvania at that time. And Prabhupada went there and stayed with a little Vaishnava family, you know, who were living there, who they had written, and Prabhupada got the okay. But he didn't want to stay there, so he made his way to New York, and then he got shelter at Dr. Mishra's yoga studio, but as soon as Prabhupada started preaching, Dr. Mishra realized, oh, he's going to take all my students, so he wouldn't let him preach there. Anyway, it was quite a struggle. And finally came down, and the real thing happened when Mukunda, you know, Mukunda Goswami, Michael Grant, he helped him find that 26 Second Avenue. And the timing, right in the middle of the hippie time, you know, with that song of My Sweet Lord, because that came a little later. But the Beatles were interested in the East, you know, and all this stuff. So, and Allen Ginsberg had come back from India, and he had a harmonium, and he was chanting Hare Krishna, believe it or not, Allen Ginsberg. So anyway, you know the story. It took root, but from that it grew all over the world. In 12 years, Prabhupada was able to, you know, spread the holy name. So this is, you know, a manifestation of Prabhupada's efforts. This temple here, the devotees who bought, you know, this building and redid it. It took a year to bring it the way it was here. It was just like a think of a warehouse, you know, that was used in the war. You know, this is. World War II. So Gunagai Maharaj and his wife, then he wasn't a sannyasi at that time, but his wife designed all this. She went to India and all this, and the devotees painted it, and that's what we have. And so, and Radhagiridhari, you know, these wonderful, all merciful deities. So the theme of this was meant to be the urgency. So it's always urgent, you know, in our lives to take up spiritual life. Because we don't know when the end may be coming. You know how, I mean, you got the climate change and you got the nukes here and there, and remember the pandemic? You know, we kind of put it out of our mind. There's a silver lining to that pandemic, because we had several devotees join, 2 of whom stayed and are now key members here. Who, you know, because people said, hey, you know, I'm going to the grocery store, I don't know who's going to breathe on me, I could die tomorrow, or get this fatal disease. So people became, it's always there. You know, death is always threatening. But when you realize, oh, if I die in this state of mind, who knows what's going to happen? So I should, you know, check out this Hare Krishna. So people were coming and chanting. But the point is, it's always urgent. And I'm going to share one more verse with you. This is spoken by Krishna in the 11th canto. I think it's part of the Uddhava Gita. And Prabhupada would quote this verse a lot. Forgive me, I just love the Sanskrit. Some of you may know this verse. Labdvas durlabamidam bahusam bhavante manushamarta damanityamapiya dira turnam yateta napatedanam rityayavad nikshe yasaya vishaya karasarvatakshyad. So this is in the 11th canto. I'll just give you a rough translation. This is not Prabhupada's translation. He finished 10th canto, 13th chapter, and then he passed. So the rest of it was done by his followers. I had a great fortune of being able to work on that. So the idea is that you have attained this difficult to attain human form of life after many, many births. Bahusam bhavante, manusham, the same word, manusham, man. And artadam, unlike the lower forms, you know, the dogs, the cats, they don't, artadam, it can give you the ultimate goal of life. It is the value, which is liberation from this world and returning back to Godhead. But like all other forms, it's anityam. It's temporary, right? And apiya dhira. So one has to be dhira. This word comes up in the Bhagavad Gita several times in the second chapter. Dhira means sober-minded, means considering, you know, not just whipped around by your emotions. But dhira, translated here as, what does it say? One who has sober intelligence, you see, and consider, you know, the ultimate. And then, having considered, turnam yateta. This word turna means right away. Don't waste any time, because you never know. You'll, you know, maybe lose the. So go with it. Yateta, strive. Napate anumitya. As long as you haven't died, anumitya yavan. And anumitya means, but death is always behind. Anytime you're driving on the, you know. I came back from my friend Eddie's and Ferdy's place last night from Imperial Beach, and Vaishnav was cooking there. He was going 70, 80 miles an hour, you know. And you know, we get to drive like that, but you know how dangerous that is. Any moment, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. You know. That's what I was thinking. So anumrityu means death is on your shoulder here. So, but as long as you haven't died yet, nikshayasaya vishayakara, strive for the ultimate good. This word shreyas comes up again, and nikshayas means ultimate good. What is the ultimate good? Liberation from birth, old age, disease, and death, and returning home back to Godhead to take up again our eternal life of bliss and knowledge. Satchit Ananda. That's the actual nature of the soul. But in this body, Asat, Achit, Nirananda. It's certainly not, it's temporary, full of ignorance, and there's a lot of miserable things happening. It's not full of Ananda. So, but that's our full nature. So here is assuring you can reach that. Because after all, Vishaya Kalasarvatak said, in all those other bodies you've been through, you've experienced so much Vishaya, this sense gratification. But where has it gotten us? Another body. It hasn't got one step toward back to God, but just the opposite. So I have to point out, Sanskrit is such an incredible language. The word for sense gratification is Vishaya. And what's the word for poison? Visha. See, it's not an accident. Sense gratification is poison. It's bewildering you into thinking, I can enjoy in this world, you know? Maybe I'll become a billionaire. At least 10 million, you know? And you spend your time, you know, no. Better to be, you know, live very simply and chant Hare Krishna and read the books of Srila Prabhupada. Come to the classes. All the classes are on YouTube. Just get on, you know, you don't even have to come, you know? And they're free. We're not charging anything. So this is the, you know, several verses, many verses like that. Don't waste the human form of life, you know? And in fact, don't waste a second, you know, because every second is precious, and you never know when that final moment, that final second is. So the whole idea is to come to the point by the process of devotional service, the sadhana bhakti, the practice, do's and don'ts. Any process. You want to become a champion Olympic pole vaulter? It's possible. The people want, well, you got to find a coach, you got to practice, you got to find out, just hold the thing and don't run too fast, don't run too slow. There's a whole bunch of do's and don'ts. If you're not ready to do the do's and avoid the don'ts, then you're wasting your time. So similarly with sadhana bhakti, like we have these don'ts, right? Everyone who joins the temple, 4 regular principles. Most of you know them. No illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication, no meat eating. And you know the most difficult one to follow? Gambling. Why? You know why? Because when we let our mind just wander, we're not really vigilant. In other words, we allow ourselves to forget Krishna. We're gambling that we won't die at that time, right? There won't be any disaster. That's the gamble. Or we postpone, we slow down, you know. It takes the determination, the seriousness, and understand the urgency. That's what he's saying. And anumritya yavan, the death is right on your shoulder. We can die at any time. I mean, we got, you know, and this calamities everywhere. So we want to try to avoid taking birth again, because who knows what the climate will be like at that time. I mean, I've been living here since '89. So what's that? It's like 36 years now. And the climate has changed just in that time. We used to have so many birds that would come at this season. And you know, and we'd have to cover over we'd bring out the prasadam, we have to cover it over, the birds would all get into the maha, you know. Now to see a bird is very rare. What happened? Climate change. And a lot of it is the insects have been you know, dying off by the trillions, and the birds eat the insects. So now it's going on all over the world. So this is the world we live in. It's danger at every step. And padam padam yad vibadam. You know, this is in the Bhagavad Gita. So that's why it says turnam, without wasting any time. You know, when you're inspired, you understand the need, begin it. And when you do that, Krishna will encourage you. He'll give you so much realization. You start chanting with attention and you know, trinadapi sunichena, try to avoid offenses, and you'll feel enlivened. And a lot of the kind of the low-grade anxiety that's always there, you know, it will evaporate because you have the connection he's giving you. And that's just the beginning. So let's you know, take up the process seriously. The books of Srila Prabhupada, you know, this is one book that we don't usually emphasize, but I'm telling you, this was the book. The Bhagavad Gita was too much Sanskrit, a little bit too difficult. Krishna book, I wasn't ready for all the Leela. But the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Srila Prabhupada didn't know, you know, at first whether he was going to have the facility to do the whole CC translation, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he took the teachings out and he made this nice book, which we have translation. And it's just very inspiring. You know, there's Lord Chaitanya's teaching, which it's Krishna himself, but teaching the highest levels of prema bhakti and giving it. Mahabhadanyaya. He's no Mahabhadanyaya, Rupa Goswami's verse. I offer obeisance to the most munificent avatar. Because he's giving the highest thing, not just liberation. He's giving love of God freely. He's not charging. Just chant this mantra. Anytime, any place, anyone. You know, you want to chant mantras to go to heaven? Hey, are you a Brahmin? You know, you have to hire 100 Brahmins to do it. You know? No, nobody paid any fee to come in here. You know. And there is the highest mantra. What does it say in the Upanishads? All right. It says, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. That's a verse. Iti shodashakam nam kali kalmashanashanam natak padatadopaya sarva vedeshu drishyate. These 16 names, shodashakam nam kali kalmashanashanam, they destroy all of the evils and the difficulties of Kali Yuga. Kali Kalmasha is like all the difficulty. You can search all the Vedas, you won't find a better means than chanting this mantra. So, it's free, you know, take it. The price is your faith, your desire. Just like this famous verse, and I'll end here because it may have some questions. So this is a beautiful verse. It was written by Ramananda Roy, who was an intimate associate of Lord Chaitanya when he was in Puri in the last 16 years. Very advanced. And so he says, Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitam ati kriyatam yadikutopi labhyate tat laulim api murliyam ekalam janma koti sukatayana labhyate. So what he's saying there is, Prabhupada took this first line and you know what he did? He coined the phrase Krishna consciousness from there. That's where Krishna got from that verse. So Krishna bhakti rasa. The rasa, the mellows, the pleasure of serving Krishna in love, Krishna bhakti rasa, bhavitamati, the mind absorbed and tasting Krishna bhakti rasa. He says, kriyatamati, you should buy it if you can find it in the marketplace. You buy that Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati. But you have to have the price. $1 billion won't get it. Tatra laulium api mulium. The mulium price is your laulium, is your greed for it, is your ardent desire for it. That's the only price. You can practice so many pious activities for millions of births, you won't get it. Maybe you get an Indraloka, but you're not going to get this precious price. Lord Chaitanya is giving it out freely. Chant this holy name, you know, with great attention and enthusiasm, give up the offenses, and associate with devotees. And learn the art and science of bhakti. And that's what this society is for. We have classes morning and evening, and at least 3 nights a week. Yes, and then we have the lounge program. It's very, very wonderful. And so please take advantage of it, you know. Get if you don't have a book, Bhagavad Gita, you can get a Bhagavad Gita. That's a basic book. Prabhupada was so happy when the unabridged version came out, which is we have. And if you have the chance, get the TLC, the Teaching of Lord Chaitanya. It can't be more than $10. It's probably cheap. But it's a gold mine of Lord Chaitanya's teachings, and it'll inspire you to become even more serious about Krishna consciousness. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Any questions, comments, arguments? We have one here. Haribol.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your class and all your wonderful service. And you were talking about how our minds accumulates.
A little louder and hold it up.
You were talking about how our minds accumulate or what we see and all the thoughts. Yeah. And just wanted to say, Giriraj Swami once said...
Turn it up. He's going to turn it up. I'll repeat it. Go ahead.
Giriraj Swami once said that at the moment of death, everything we lived goes through our minds very fast, very fast. But when it comes to the Ratha Yatra, it goes in slow motion.
That's a good thing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've ever read these accounts of near-death experiences, and people describe that my whole life came before me, And then, Satyananda Swami, he had an experience where he had an operation and he almost died. And he gave us a whole seminar. It was on Dandabats some years ago, dandabats.com. And he was describing how they made some mistake and this, and suddenly he was out of his body. He was going and he was watching them operate on him, So there's many accounts like that. The reincarnation there's empirical evidence for it. There was one thing I saw on YouTube years ago. Some young boy, he wasn't in India, he was in Michigan somewhere, and his parents were Orthodox Catholics or something. And he insisted that no, I was a fighter pilot in World War II, and this was the plane I had, and they actually investigated, and sure enough, there was a fighter pilot by that name, and usually it happens with Indian children. You'll find that they say, "You're not my mother," My name is this, So that's yeah. And I never thought of that. How Ratha Yatra will be slow motion. That would be a good pitch for the LA Ratha Yatra. I think soon we'll ask if you want to go up on the bus. We have a bus that goes up. We charter every year. And it's definitely worth it. You don't have to worry about driving up. I usually do a few poems on the bus. I don't know if that's an invitation to take the bus or avoid the bus, but anyway. Anyone else? Dhanavari. Never say Dhanavari Devi Dasi, because her name is a name for Krishna. Dhanavari, the enemy of the Dhanavas, of the demons. So she's a Dasi of Krishna, who's like Govinda Dasi. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Very nice class. Thank you for everything you do and you share with us. What you just mentioned about the death is on the shoulder. You just say
you got to point it a little bit more.
You just said padam padam ya vipadam natesham, that verse. So I want to share something quick, short, in a short version, that around 3:30 or something, there is a park next to my house, which is like 8 minutes walking distance. And I was there, I was sitting there chanting, and about like few feet away, the tree fell down suddenly, and the kids were playing, and the people who were there, they were practicing fencing, the sports fencing. Yeah, fencing.
Oh, yeah, fencing.
So, and the big noise came, and I was so like scared and everything, and I went close by. It was very close. Luckily, I wasn't that close enough to get hit, Krishna willing. But the boy and the father, boy was under the tree, but the paramedics, ambulance, cops, everybody came, The father had bloody everything. It was so hard. And the boy, they took him. Hopefully he's okay. Hopefully he'll make it. I don't know. He was serious looking and everything. So when you just say that suddenly, I mean, nothing was all of a sudden. I go there all the time.
Yeah.
So I was remembering that verse. I was saying
Padam,
in my mind, padam padam tavi padam na yatesham. So
Yeah,
what you just said,
that's an impetus to say, okay, I'm, always chant. That, I mean, it says, oh, you got to chant 24 hours a day. Well, how can that be when I'm sleeping? That if you chant, if you're really serious, you can chant more and more, and always remembering the holy name, because that's the nature of this material world. You never know, Okay, anyone else? Oh, we have Chatura here.
Hello. Okay. You mentioned earlier on that the different elements of knowledge.
Yeah.
So I was reading something, one of the characteristics or elements of knowledge is gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Can you mention any other elements? And where do you find this? I think it's interesting to break down knowledge.
There's a nice list of elements of knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 13, text 8 through 12, I believe. And the first one, everyone knows what the first one is? Amanitvam, humility. Because to really get knowledge, you have to approach the superior person. Amanitvam, adambitvam. Now, damba probably would always translate as pride. And another meaning is hypocrisy. You have to be straightforward, and you don't cheat yourself. In other words, be serious. And one of the elements of this is this understanding janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshana darshanam. So always see or be aware of common for the evils. And if you look it up in the dictionary, evil doesn't necessarily mean, evil as we know it, but it can mean something that causes pain or suffering. The evils of birth, old age, disease, and death. So there's a whole list of others there, but you can yeah. That's chapter 13, text 8, I think, through 12. Yeah. All right, we got 7 minutes till 7, if there's any more. Otherwise, I'll do what I do. Oh, there. Nilesh Prabhu has a question. He's got his mic.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I have a question. So I tried to explain one of my friends why one should not eat meat, why one should not eat mushrooms and onion and garlic. I was able to convince him about the meat eating, but I was not able to convince him about onion, garlic, and mushrooms. Yes.
Yeah. Well, my understanding is that those foods promote the mode of ignorance. Now, I'm not sure exactly how, but that's why we avoid them, And of course, mushrooms, you got the overtone of, oh, is it a magic mushroom? They can get high on mushrooms. That's another reason to avoid mushrooms. But garlic and onions is just verboten, It's just exactly how that, brings you down, or I'm not sure, but I trust that, that's so. I'm sorry? Okay, explain in the mic, because I couldn't hear it really. Right in.
Yeah. So basically, eating onion garlic, it stimulates the nervous system.
It stimulates the what? Nervous system?
Nervous system.
Oh, not in a nice way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's stimulated. So that's why if we eat onion garlic, the dhira you told,
oh, you can't be dhira.
You can't be dhira.
Okay. There it is. No more onions and garlic. Give them up. All right. Thank you very much for your attention. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please join the kirtan and the feast. Don't forget the feast. Oh, by the way, if anyone wants my poems, I didn't chant a poem. Okay, here's one, final poem. Every single body dies, right? Everybody dies. Nobody dies. Wake up and open your eyes. You're not that body, you're a pure spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. Hare Krishna. So let's Let's chant the holy name and attain life's goal. Harimo. So write to me at dravida108@gmail, and I'll send you all my poems for free.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you to Dravida